Okay, we're live.
Hello.
Hi there.
How's it going? Cordy's back.
Well,
Tell a friend.
it's been a
Wait,
while.
what's the line before that? Back again. Cordy's back.
Again. Yeah.
Hide your wives. How's it going, Cordy?
Yeah, welcome back.
Well, I'm a little bit disappointed at the minute, if I'm honest. I got offered this pretty big tour, but investigations have sort of put that to a halt. And yeah, I don't think I'll be playing with R. Kelly for a while.
Straight in.
Yeah.
P. Diddy instead.
Literally less than a minute.
P. Diddy.
Isn't it the first? Isn't it the first 60 seconds, or is it first 2 minutes you got to get through?
Yeah. Is that baby oil you're
YouTube.
drinking?
No, I've used that all on the stairs, not the fence.
Was that to get the mattress up or down?
Oh, bro, to stop.
Oh, man, life. Oh, life.
Life in prison.
Who was that?
I think it's P. Diddy.
No, I know what you mean. It's the one with the worst lyrics ever written. It's something about having a piece of toast and seeing ghosts or whatever.
Yeah, it is Desiree, because that's
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
there you go,
office.
there you go.
That's right. Yeah, I don't give shitty jobs, Cody.
Mm.
Okay, let's kind of start this properly now. So, welcome back to the podcast. I knew this was going to happen. Yeah, so we're still just hitting our weekly targets, like getting your steps in and getting the pods in. Tom is left for, where's he gone? Spain?
South
right
America,
now?
is it? No?
P. Diddy tour.
Spain now.
Spain.
Yeah. He's sipping mojitos and eating steak. So, what's Jake doing?
I don't know if he's on a show. I know he's on like a bit of a residency at the minute, innit? I saw a video of him absolutely shredding his balls off.
My goodness, that was ridiculous.
Definitely not keeping it session.
I think he's on a bit of a Tinder streak as well, he told me in the DMs.
So, like,
He's not here
well,
to
it's
defend
certainly
himself, so
we'll it's a full Jake frontal left for sure, man. It's a full Jake assault in that clip. I mean, it's just like all the Jake plus 5%. Like, it's absolutely burning. Crazy lad. So yeah, he's not here to defend himself, but I'll say, yeah, amazing playing, Doc. Yeah, so Dan, how you doing? You've had a bit of a what's this haunted shit?
Oh, I've got some haunted jeans, man. I've got some haunted jeans from a gig. Basically,
it's like Derek Cora sort of
big time. Yeah. Mary loves Dick and all that, or whatever it is, that episode.
I'm getting the word. Oh no, what is it from Phoenix Nights?
Baptiste.
Nods. Clinton Baptiste, that's it. Sorry.
No, I did a gig in his marquee, and it started raining halfway through, like the first sort of half, to the point where all the electric went off, and then we had to load out through like a muddy field, and the jeans didn't get wet, they didn't get muddy, but something with the farmer air, the farmer aura, like, has just haunted these jeans, and these jeans just smell like something just really odd, and I cannot get them out, and I've washed them like 3 times. And I boil washed them with some other stuff, so now all my towels are like haunted as well. So,
you're just making me think. Do you really reckon I'm going to start just smelling of chickens?
what? And you just won't know because you've become acclimatized to it.
I'll be like chicken Beebs, just stinking of chicken.
Maybe.
Better than smelling like a cock.
Oh.
Well, they are hens. They are of the clucky female variety. So yeah, I don't think I mentioned it on the pod, but yeah, like Sarah has got us 3 chickens to look after and eat eggs from. Don't eat eggs, but I might try and start now.
You don't eat eggs?
It's my update.
Wait, you don't eat eggs? Is that what you just said?
Eggs.
How do I not know this about you?
I
know
eggs.
you can't have like pizza and stuff. You don't eat cheese.
I don't. Well, it's just I don't do
religious
dairy,
reasons.
I don't do eggs.
You don't do eggs? Oh. Is there like, there's got to be like a name for that, right?
Haram.
I don't know. No, it's nothing like I don't think it's like an allergy or anything. I think they're just kind of gross. So
Scrambled eggs, man. That's like
I don't. It might be different if they're my chicks. It might be if they're my chickens. I might feel like I want to try and eat them.
like it's insulting if you don't.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
they've done all that
well,
work.
it's like I mean, Sarah's done most of the work, obviously, but like I did help her build the house and
The chicken house,
and
the chicken crib.
so and they are cute. They've got like fancy fluffy feet. They've got like
Oh, right,
like,
those
look
ones.
like they're wearing little boots.
Right, yeah.
They are cool, cute little things. So and that
The fancy chickens,
yeah.
disco chickens.
Yeah, well, that's my base. Anyway, back from Budapest, picked up a stonking cold while I was out there, so I'm just getting over that. So if I keep muting my audio and coughing, that's why. I also came back from got back on the Thursday, and then had like 3 gigs Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so it was all flued up. So yeah, but over it mostly and. Indeed. In fact, Sarah's miraculously not caught it, which is I was kind of keep my distance. So hopefully she sort of gets away with it. But yeah, back into the rest of it, doing some practice, shooting some videos, and yeah, that's me. So yeah, Cordy, how are you doing? It's been a while since you've been on the show.
Ages,
like what you've been up to? You've
made a human.
Passed the 100K milestone on YouTube since I think the last time you've been on and. Cool.
Yeah, I got sent a plaque in the post. I still haven't opened that.
Oh, open it now, live on stream. Unboxing.
I've lost my knife. What else has happened? Yeah, Elodie was born, so she's now like over 20 months. So that's the thing.
Man.
So it's like nearly 2.
Yeah, 2 in the end of January. So we're still a way off. And she'll be driving. And yeah, we had our first family bug the other day. So we were all chundering, and I had a little bit of blood in my vomit. So that was cool.
Oof.
Oh.
Name of my new country album, Blood in My Vomit. Other than that,
managing to do. You guys can hear me okay? Am I getting internet problems again?
no, I think it's just a little bit slow. A bit northern.
I'm wondering if, yeah, it was just breaking out my side. You guys are breaking out, so I just wonder if it's my end or.
You're just getting a thick end of Elon, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, it's just Elon taking me up the starfish. Yeah, I think it is breaking it. Yeah, I need to try and switch networks again.
I'll just check mine. Not mine, is it?
I think you guys will be fine. It's me. I know it will be. 1 second.
I'm about normal.
Screws things.
It's Beebs' Stargate. Me and you will have a chat, Cordy, while he's sorting that out. How are you finding balancing the, content creation, etc., and the kiddo?
It's very different. I don't know if you guys can relate to this. Like, how for basically ages I've been super selfish and you have to be able to practice for long amounts of time. And it's just that's all gone now. So it's any time playing guitar is basically on video. So that's kind of fun. And yeah, but it being my job makes it kind of easier because I have an excuse. I don't know how people would balance it. Like if you had a normal 9 to 5 and then you have to explain to someone that you want to practice for a bit. That must be tough. But yeah, it's been mostly fine. Mostly.
I guess it's perked in a way that, your job is for the most part kind of working from home. So you're kind of around.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not like you're out of the house and then you come home and it's like, oh, sorry, I haven't seen you all day, but leave me alone. I want to play some guitar.
Yeah. The tough thing is, or the toughest thing is when you get a gig where you've got a duo and evening gig, because then you're away the whole day and then you're just all right, I'm going to head off. That's the only time that it's a bit more difficult. And then that also means you have to bank stuff to do that, basically. But yeah, it's just what it is, isn't it?
Which is, I think, as I had to switch networks, so I might have broken out and missed this, but you're still committed to the at least daily video schedule thing for now. And do you feel like that is, because I think you are, let's say you're not the only one that does this, but you are certainly the most prolific guitar YouTuber, I think is probably an actual statement of fact. So do you see that as something that is still in just, you're going to keep doing it, or do you feel like maybe there's a point in sight where you might dial it back, or is it just, what are your thoughts at the moment on the sort of quantity element of what you do?
I more feel like whilst the wheels are going, I'll just keep doing it, if you know what I mean. Like, unless anything changes drastically, I don't see it changing. I'm actually introducing some new merch, which is going to say like powered by autism. So that's coming soon. No, I don't know. It's just one of those things where I've set a habit and it kind of like makes sense to continue whilst things look like they're going well until I get cancelled.
Well,
Or if I get
you've certainly maybe, yeah.
come on, see, well, until Doug Castro comes knocking at my door saying, "Can you tries to chin my whole family."
Archetype Cordy. I think there's probably other things that would happen before that. I think you're probably safe.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah. So no, it's congratulations, obviously, on all the success. I think it proves the sense that somebody can sort of forge their own kind of weird destiny.
Create your own YouTube prison.
Yeah, or like, people are, the common thing is that people are chasing the YouTube algorithm, and I've always thought that instead of you doing that, you've kind of bent the algorithm around you. You've beaten it by sheer force of quantity. So it just kind of, which is kind of astonishingly impressive. And,
Well, I think the idea really, as we discussed more or less, is that I just don't particularly pay attention to the success or whatever of video. I just make the video because it's fun. And that, I think, avoids burnout because I don't really care.
Yeah, so you don't emotionally invest into the success of a video or not, because you're just going to do another one the next day and just it never ever ends. So but I think there is an element of, you kind of joke about the autism, but there is an element of no, but there is sort of an element of like having the mindset that can do that, where you're not, because I think people do emotionally attach and invest and form identity to the products or projects they create, whether they want to or not. A lot of the time, it's almost like a very natural thing. But I think having the ability that you seem to do to stay one step detached from that allows you to kind of maybe just think, well, I didn't spend tons of time on this, and I can just do another one tomorrow. And maybe it just seems to have served you well, given the uphill battle that the kind of succeeding on YouTube seems to be, that you've kind of made that work in a really, cool way.
Yeah, I'm happy with it, but yeah, again, I wouldn't recommend anyone else really do it particularly, but it seems to work all right for me, and fits in with my life okay, which I guess is the only way that you would end up doing it on like a streak for however long it is now. I'm not really sure what it is, but it's a lot of videos, isn't it?
Oh,
it is,
sorry,
man.
I missed
Big
some of the chat. Quail was in the chat.
Quail's in the chat, and I'm getting advice on how to get the smell out of my jeans.
Quail's in the chat. Can we get Quail's in the chat? How do I?
Quail's in the chat, please.
I can't join the chat, can I?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Tom.
Has it ever got to a point where there's that weird shift of I'm doing this for fun, and then it kind of shifts into, oh, this is like career mode now, and it's like, oh, now I kind of have to care, or I have to keep doing it, or is it literally you're just kind of still just rolling the dice and just like, oh yeah, this is fun, and it just so happens that it's turned into a bit of an avenue. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I think early on, Tom and David sort of had this idea that I was like knowingly useless. But I think that's
It's consciously incompetent.
yeah, it's not that. I think it's just what is going on with him. Right.
He's dying. He's got the bird flu from his new chickens.
It's either that or the quad cortex is reaching out to grab his sphincter. But yeah, it's not. I don't know. I think I don't know. How can I say it? The thing that I've taken fairly seriously is like guitar playing. The other sort of it, like setting up cameras and all that lighting stuff, I'm obviously not good at. And like anyone who watches the channel knows that that's definitely not what I can do. But it's kind of like I don't know. I'll give it a go, and it's steadily got a little bit better over time, I think. But I don't know. Maybe that's part of it that people can clearly see that it's just a guy in a bedroom. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not someone. I don't know. Like what's the word? I don't know. Putting in like loads of effort and like it's
like production value.
Yeah,
the audio. I mean, the audio is like good though, and for considering it's like guitar stuff, that's kind of what matters.
Well,
it'd be worse the other way around if it was like absolutely pristine, like Rick Beato sort of in the actor studio kind of production, levels, and then the audio was absolute trash.
Yeah,
that'd be way worse.
I do what I can do basically, and sometimes I think that can yield some kind of cool results. It's like, oh, that's just one guy in a bedroom, and it's like, but then most of the time it's distinctly average looking, very I guess that's part of it, isn't it? Like I start off as just a normal guy. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
like
very
anyone could do it.
And yeah, it's totally relatable, and I think definitely something that is probably part of the charm is that it's not super pristine and corpo, and like you're very much maybe you tell a little less Joseph Fritzl lost profit jokes in sponsored videos than you used to, but I still like to think that that you're not above burning bridges for a good joke.
I prefer his earlier stuff.
Yeah. If you check the earlier stuff, there is some really random stuff, and also like long introductions that have nothing to do with anything. So that's quite funny. But I think, over time, I've kind of, I think, got slightly better at maybe being slightly more concise in some ways, hopefully, but in other ways, not so much.
Definitely.
I think the consistency, though, because you are so consistent, I think people just sort of sign the contract that goes, oh, I'm in for just what this is, because it's so consistent.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what I mean? Because most people, big productions or whatever, doing like 2 videos a week, or maybe even 3, at high levels, I think is like, especially if you're editing it or you're doing everything yourself, one-man operation, that's like a full-time job. I mean, Beebs is like kind of doing it now. You know what I mean? It is a lot of time sink to make sure that is all there.
I did a Cordy yesterday, or it was because I managed.
Oh God, myself. What did you do?
No, I did the whole thing in like under 24 hours. So now granted, I did cheat because I used the same backing track from before, so I didn't make a whole new track. But I did first take improvisation. I literally was my first one. Didn't do another, and then I just like spewed at the camera and then just edited it as quick as I could, and got it up there.
Nice.
Yeah. I also think that so I think it would take other people a lot longer than it takes me, purely because of like workflow and volume. Like the fact that I've done it every day, literally for the last however long. What is it? I don't know. It's 2019, isn't it? Then you found
I don't know when you started. Tom and I think discovered you in 2019 when we were on Isla.
Yeah, I think it's like
we were doing all those doing all those Iridium videos is when I first saw you. Yeah.
So I think the fact that it's been over that period of time means that whatever it is that I do, I can do quite quickly relative to what it might take someone else to do it. You know, like lining up audio in. Because I get people like ask if I need an editor or whatever. It's kind of like I'm pretty sure if to get it to whatever I get it level wise, I must be fairly quick. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it's what I do like every day.
Well, you have videos about products you're not associated with the pre-launch that come out before other people's pre-launch, you know, that have got the pre-launch, which is astonishing. Like the speed with which you just get stuff out there is just, which is why it always looks as if obviously I'm copying your videos, because it's stuff we will talk about. And I'm going to do a video, and then like by the time before I've managed to get the guitar out the case, you've already uploaded it.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's another thing as well. Like, I don't know, like people are already going to find videos on certain things. Like, how many videos do you want to watch that like all have like immaculate B-roll and are all saying that like more or less the same thing about the piece of kit or whatever? Like, I don't know. There's a little bit of that to me where it probably in my video, like on balance, there'll be more playing than quite a lot of the others, just by the sheer fact that I stick 3 minutes of like improvisation at the start. Do you know what I mean? That might be a thing. I don't know. It probably turns a load of people off as well, to be fair.
well, you're in a no-win scenario now, as you found out. Like, well, as you know, evidenced by some of the comments you get now. It's like you pinned on earlier on about being a paid fractal shill, and it's like, you know, people are going to make those assumptions, and you know, so you might as well just take the work, which I thought was quite an astute comment, because you get accused either way of, you know.
Talking of burning bridges, for example, like for years I've done videos for Line 6, and like the amount of actual paid videos I've done for Line 6 is like maybe 2. And like I've worked with loads more companies with loads more videos than that, and it's kind of interesting that like for years I was like apparently the Line 6 shill. when But it is what it is.
Well, it's mental, isn't it? Because you must have done like 1,000 videos for Line 6 for free.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
So
But that's just what it is. I kind of get it as well, because before I was doing this, I was thinking the same thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're not getting opportunities to work on stuff, then for sure I for sure was kind of like, well, it's easy to say nice things about stuff that you're paid to say nice things about, which is definitely true. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, a couple of comments. Will Goodfellow, a very big admirer of yours, John, and loves the content. And
How old is your kid now, Will? I can't actually see his comment, can I? So I don't know why I'm asking, but it's getting there, I think.
yeah,
It must be over 1 now. Will's a great player, by the way.
Yeah, following him on Instagram. He's got some great chordal chops. I've seen him play stuff.
Plays PRS guitars, but that can't be helped.
Is he a lawyer?
PRS lover now. Pat De Jong, I think having a dedicated room to record the video is a massive time saver.
True.
Yeah, if you can get a space that is just dedicated to doing that, then having everything kind of ready to go is definitely helpful.
I too have a space and don't bother. Like,
do you leave your cameras up, Dan?
Yeah, they're like this one is permanently there. There's one next to it that's also permanently there. And this light there that is on now is permanently there.
Mm-hmm. What do you do instead?
Just teach in schools and gig.
Right, so teaching is like a massive amount of time anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
Right.
Well, teaching and gigging, combine that together, it does leave probably less. Well, I know it does, because I did it a lot myself for the longest of time. It does kind of eat into so much of the literal time, but also the mental bandwidth as well, I think.
It's more just making terrible choices about going to bed and getting up, so that I become very sleep deprived. I worked this out the other day, actually. Technically, you're supposed to have 8 hours sleep. I know no one really gets 8 hours sleep. But if you fuck that up and have 6 hours sleep 4 nights in a row, you've lost an entire night's worth of sleep, which I find terrifying.
How do you feel about
Will's
that?
kids 4 and 5 months, by the way. Real-time follow-up on the age of Will Goodfellow's kids.
Ah, he's got two. So the 5 months is the new one.
Rue is nearly 4 and Henry is 5 months. On top of
Ah.
my day job, there is zero time to play guitar. Yeah, so
Yeah. I think that's one other thing for me. I never did like teaching. So I always, when I started gigging in like 2015, I always had like a gap of time to fill with something. So I think that was quite a good thing because it left me like time to try the online stuff a bit. So I think, yeah, if I hadn't quit my job specifically to do music, then I think it would be way more difficult to fit in some of these things, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. I will get back on it at some point, but I probably need to do like a bit of a plan, and like, because it's easy to plan one video and do it, but really you need to kind of have, you know what I mean? You have a few that you can bounce off. Yeah, we'll see. I am playing more, to be fair. I've got a little it's actually the Victory that used to be up there. It was now replaced by a Lego Horizon robot thing.
Oh, you've had positive comments about the DeLorean, by the way, in the chat.
Oh yeah, I've already thanked him. Yeah. Yeah, just having a little setup. It's because Delaney was getting fixed because the drummer dropped it out of his BMW. You know, which is great. It's fine.
Helpful.
But in the doing that, I found a guy in Manchester that seems to be a nice guy for like fixing amps and pedals and such. 2 pedals that I had that were sort of kind of broken. So technically, I've got 2 new pedals.
Did he fix the dual fusion?
Yeah, he's just put 2 new switches on it. So the dual fusion, both switches were gone for some reason. Well, I thought it was only one. Like one of them just didn't work, but it was both of them apparently. And then the Flint, Pete and the band dropped a light, and it landed on the corner of the intensity knob on the tremolo, and then the other side of the landed on the corner of I think the Wampler Ego. Now, not sponsored, but the Wampler is fine. But the intensity knob on the tremolo got stuck. Like you couldn't change the intensity, and it was set. It was for some reason it was quite high, so it was just going whoa 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 like that. And you could change the speed, but you know, unless you wanted to play Boulevard of Broken Dreams, you're pretty fucked. But yeah, he's fixed it, which is good because I thought it might have been like absolutely screwed, and then it's like a 200 odd pound pedal, just you know.
Nice. I might need to get that number for who it is because I've got an old version 1 dual fusion I'd like to get fixed just for the and I don't know, Cordy, have you ever played these?
Yeah,
Focus. You got to do what the cool people do and do that.
Crunchbox. I played the Andy Timmons one that you showed me, or let me borrow.
That's the JHS. This is the original that was based off the MI audio.
Yeah, the guy emailed me and then said he wanted to send me a pedal and then never did.
So a friend of the podcast, Greg Stott down in Australia, sent this across. He's got several of them. He's a big fan of them, and I've not been able to get it to work because the switch isn't working. So I've got a couple of pedals that need looking at. So yeah, I might have to get a number.
The dark underbelly of the pedal world with all their broken switches.
Yeah,
it is a weird. It's like this really strange sort of like yardy kind of back door in Chorlton, which is considered a fairly nice part of Manchester. But you just go around this back street and then there's just this like gate down the side of a house, and it goes to this little unit like in the middle of nowhere.
Nice,
but, nice guy, you know, pretty sort of no nonsense, but like, you know, fixes loads of stuff. It's like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
I need one of them.
Segue into gear then.
Yeah, man.
A couple of interesting news items that kind of slipped me by back in June. I was going through the Namm thing, sent the email around through to like, I don't know, register interest, whatever, and I was looking at the floor map, and the big guns are back, which is totally sort of surprised me. Fender, Gibson, who else is there? Not PRS, I don't think, interestingly. Suhr have gone back. Seems like Namm 2025 is actually, returning to, you know, the big sort of players, which is super interesting. Apparently the Fender announcement was in June. I just missed it. I don't know if you guys had caught that, but it's yeah, it's just obviously the last few years have been quite different. And Yamaha have been the kind of top billing sort of sponsor or whatever, you know, the kind of hosting of it, I guess. But yeah, I think from attending the last little while, it seemed to be that it was going to be this kind of gradual decline. I felt like maybe after the last one, but it may be like Fender making all the right noises about how important it is to kind of meet people and launch products at Namm and still do their very lucrative online dealer only things in the winter, but launch products and kind of support the kind of get together. So that's quite interesting. I just thought, you know, put that out there in case someone else had missed it. I don't know. That's
Are they going to do the thing where because I mean I've not been in quite a while, but I feel like Fender and Gibson kind of almost like had their own floor in a way.
yeah,
It's kind of
I
got their
think
own
so,
like
from the floor plan.
porch sort of top,
Yeah,
you know, top level thing.
yeah, I think so. Just, you know, just a like either side of the main, you know, I don't know whether it's floor 2 or 3 or whatever it was. I can't remember, but
Up in the wings.
yeah, but PRS, I don't think PRS. Suhr have been like on and off over the years. Apparently, I think Suhr is probably not there when I first started going, but then were then not, and so it's interesting they're back as well. So yeah, it's potentially. It did have the feel earlier this year when we were there that it was like more people were there again. It was more buzzing, like people had returned sort of post COVID, even though the big brands hadn't. So maybe that's part of it. The footfall was bigger, and that's encouraged people to come back. But yeah, so anyway,
Is that shirt haunted? Is that what I just noticed
I
there?
was just checking. I thought I smelled a ghost.
yeah.
I think I'm all right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I said to you, I think like companies sort of run out of ideas a little bit. So I feel like, especially like a big company is always, I think, going to revert back to what they were doing, which is like a good thing for Namm, presumably.
Yeah, I was surprised in that I remember some of the chatter and rumor was that the first year of COVID, Fender made so much money based like off of their online only and not by not doing Namm when actually not when it was obviously cancelled because of COVID, but the first year back they decided to not do it and do it all online instead. And apparently the rumors are they made like, you know, 10x the amount that they would have made and obviously saved from not putting on the Namm show. So I don't obviously that could all just be just hearsay rumor, but it just seemed that I'd have got it in my mind that, well, surely from a business perspective, you can't go back on that if it's just so much, save so much money and you make so much money by not doing it. But I guess it proves that, you know, says otherwise that in that they are committed to coming back and they'll be there 2025. So
I wonder if they'll do anything different. As
yeah,
like
the size of it maybe, or whether it's
I can't even remember. I remember little performance booths like Ernie Ball kind of Music Man vibes. There's that they had a little stage. Did Fender and Gibson have like a little thing going on? Did they ever have performances? I can't even remember.
Yeah, Mark Lettieri played one a couple of
they
years
definitely,
back when he was
yeah,
shopping around
Gibson,
like Ibanez and that. I'm not saying anything bad,
uh,
Beebs.
yeah, I didn't say a word.
No, but
I
yeah,
only
there
remember
was
him
a
playing a few different things at once.
yeah, but it was around the time before his PRS launch that he was one of the, like the big names at Namm, and he was on a Fender stage whenever that was.
Like he was also on an Ibanez poster there as well.
Yeah,
So just to prove your point.
right.
Yeah.
You said it.
Um, you started it.
I didn't say anything.
Right. Yeah. So Namm, it's back with a bang. Apparently, 2025, and so I think obviously our friends at Neural will be there with presumably with a something intriguing and other than a big sign this time. And obviously they've got we were talking about last time the new Nano Cortex that seem to be. I still haven't had a chance to get my hands on one, but certainly have been more impressed and interested in that. And I know that chatting to you, Cordy, you've had somewhat similar thoughts. But it's one of the reasons we were talking about getting you on is just to give you just some kind of follow up on that. Now at this point, you've had it for a couple of weeks. Is there there anything that you would sort of any more to say on it? Anything you'd change? Anything that's top of your head that comes to
I
mind?
did have a chat with Rob Harris from Jamiroquai yesterday. So he uses a quad cortex live and has a spare for obvious reasons. And so he was discussing the nano cortex with me. And I think this is kind of the little bit of the masterstroke with it, where I think there's a huge chunk of players who are mostly just using like one capture and maybe like a pedal and maybe like a little bit of delay and reverb. I think there's a chunk of players, like certainly bassists and all of that sort of stuff. But he asked, is there a global EQ? I don't think there is a global EQ. So that's one of the things that I've been noodling over. And the thing that I came up with was that you could put in essentially a flat IR, and you've got 5 IR slots, I think. So you could actually bake in some global EQs type stuff, like a high cut or a low cut. I mean, Dan's sick of the chat. So anyway, that was the idea, that you could actually just build in some IRs that have just an EQ cut, basically, and get around the fact it doesn't have a global EQ until such a point that it does.
I see. Right. Okay. I didn't realize that would be something you could do. So how would you do that?
So you would have to create your own IR. So you'd be creating it from, which is a thing you can do in a DAW. And then when exporting your IR, you would put on your EQ curve that you want. So for example, I'd probably have one that was like a high cut down to 4K, one that was down to 3.5, maybe one that was down to 5, 1 to 8, that sort of thing. Which I think could work for people, especially if your captures are predominantly done with an IR or an actual speaker baked in.
If you had to have a guess, obviously this is all just guessing because, you know, none of us have kind of a neural link. That's an Elon thing. That's an Elon Musk thing, isn't it? Neural link. What would you, if you had to put money on it, would you say that there's going to be updates in the way of expanding it, or is it priced at such an aggressively low point given its current feature set that there's not much room to be kind of updating it for free? I guess that's another topic to.
Yeah, I don't see any other company following suit on that paid updates thing for a while. It's my opinion on that, based on the backlash, would you call it, from the community? Anyway, but neural, in the manual, if you read it, it does say that the effects were added in this Nanos, whatever it's called, NanoS.
NanoS. Nan's operating system.
Yeah, so maybe in like GILF 2.0 or whatever, they'll put in some extra stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like it kind of, I guess the way that the manual is written is implied that other things will be coming, I guess, is implying that there will be adding things at additional dates, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. Although I wouldn't assume necessarily that they'd add on like significantly different functionality. So things like adding on a global EQ maybe, to me, seems like a little bit out of scope of what most people add as an update. But I don't know. What do I know? I don't have an in with Doug anymore.
No. Yeah. Yeah, and it's the Dan. You may have missed this, but there was quite a like the sort of paid updates model is quite
paid DLC.
See what you. Yeah, like what do you think of this? Like, you know, we kind of hinted at it, talked about it with like the regards to like the, you know, the quad cortex and like the plugins, which I think it's still a question mark as to whether that will become like a harbinger for sort of paid updates, which being charitable, I think, you know, there are some signs as to that's not being the case. But Kemper have just flat come out and said, yeah, we are, you know, charging for updates now, and seems to have been a little bit controversial.
Well, I feel like no one has. I feel like it's never really been a thing, has it? Like the Helix, you know, updates. It's just like, oh, there's a new update. There's some new stuff. You know, you get some new players. You get a new goalkeeper for Arsenal. I need some new kits. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
But I mean, I could definitely see a world where they do like a sort of season pass model, where it's like you pay X amount for the year, and that gets you, any updates, and maybe basically like a license, like software licenses, kind of like that, maybe at a push. I don't know, but it's never really been a thing in the guitar world, has it? It's sort of
it's
because if
freedom isn't free, is it? Like, it costs a hefty fucking fee, and if you don't all chip in your buck or five, like, I kind of see it both ways. Like, as somebody that makes things like makes an product that also is sort of the expectation is you get free updates. You buy this thing once for, in an app's case, it's a really relatively low fee, but then I think as the customer, the user's being kind of like conditioned by the shape of the market to have this expectation, this entitlement that all updates should be worked on for free forever. So I can kind of see it from the sort of manufacturer's side, in that these things are not free. It takes time. I know it's really it's extensive. It takes a lot of time and money and hard work to sort of keep making updates. And I've kind of got this idea that like Fractal started it, but then Line 6 came and kind of steamrolled and kind of upended the whole thing. Because like with Fractal, you can kind of understand it because it's the top end of the market. It's the most expensive thing. And by doing that, by, ponying up all that cash for the most expensive modeling, you're kind of buying the future-proof nature of this thing. And that's how it's kind of, I imagine, is partly funded, is that it's a premium, top-tier, expensive product that is, the updates for the life cycle of the product are kind of funded by that. But Line 6's flagship product is half the cost of the Fractal. So, but they're still giving free, air quotes, free updates for the lifetime of the product. And that seems to me to have like kind of biased and warped consumer mindsets into thinking, well, yeah, every product should just have eternally free updates for it. So I think
updates, I think there's two things though. I think there's updates and then there's like content. So I feel like quality of life updates that, bug fixes and all that kind of stuff should potentially be free. But then bug stuff where it's like you're getting new stuff, you're getting new content. I can see an argument for charging for that. Like this update, I'm using the word update, but in my head there's two separate things going on here. One is like bug fixes and like, actual, updating how the thing runs. And then there's content like here's 10 new amps
so it works.
Yeah. So support. Well, if we say support and then update new content, they're two slightly separate things. But like, charging for new content
very separate.
Is a thing. But like bug fixes and whatever else, and like the thing just running better because there has been some new developments or optimization, is a bit different. But new stuff, any new thing, I can see an argument for like, for charging for it. It's just, it hasn't really been done. And the weird thing is, and then so say something comes out then, and it's it cost X amount. Say it's $900, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then if I buy it a year later or whatever, and it's still $900, do I get the updates included with that purchase, or is it like, do you know what I mean? If you buy the product when it's further down the update line, are you getting more value for your money technically? Because would those updates be included? Would it be the latest firmware or whatever and the latest stuff? Or I think the word update is a tricky one.
Why don't you talk about Cordy? I mean, why don't you just refresh us on what Kemper are actually doing, because that might sort of explain part of that.
So what Kemper did was essentially bring out a smaller model, which is what people had been asking for ages, to be fair, asking for a model that wouldn't be able to profile, but that could play profiles. So they brought out the Kemper Player, and at launch, it had like half the amount of effect slots and 3 buttons and like a much smaller library of effects. And then I think about 9 months after this, basically they've announced that there's a level 1 and level 2, or level 2 and level 3 upgrade. The basic gist of which is that if you pay €300, it will be able to do the same stuff that a normal Kemper could do, which there's kind of two interpretations of. If either that's a really good thing that you can level up your Kemper, or at the same time they intentionally held back features so that they could charge for it further down the line, which I think is the interpretation that a lot of people took of that. There is other examples of this sort of thing with the Eventide H9, which initially they would sell additional algorithms for, I think, $19.99, I think, until they brought out the H9 Max. So that's a thing. The other thing that you bring up, like Dan there, because this stock, from what I know about this stuff, kind of sits in warehouses for ages, like not getting firmware updates. So at the point that you buy a device, you probably, if you're buying a Helix or a HX Stomp or whatever, you probably might be buying one that you immediately have to update once or twice anyway. So how would you then manage that? Like, oh, I bought this at this date. So I think it does bring on a whole like other scenario of like managing the payments and all that sort of stuff. Is that really worth the extra effort as well? Like implementing that system. I don't know. It just seems like it's opening a whole can of potential worms.
Would you then have to have some sort of system that ties devices to the users?
Exactly.
In terms of, like where that unit is updated, where that unit is packed full, what version is the unit that you've got, so if you're selling a piece of gear second hand, is it like, how does that work? Is it tied to your, like your license or whatever? Like, it gets a bit, I don't know. You'd have to kind of almost redo the whole system of how people buy and use these things.
Exactly. I had one person say in the comments, like, if you're going to do this, the hardware should be cheaper, which I could kind of see an argument for. Like, you sort of rent your piece of hardware for a small amount and then you pay a yearly subscription. Like, that'd be a different way to do it. But all of it to me seems to sound kind of like just a worse way of doing things than currently. Because the way I see it at the moment is like the update is how companies like Line 6 and Fractal and Neural end up getting like free marketing after launch, because it gives people like me something to talk about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, here's the latest, what's new in Helix land.
Yeah. And if that was put behind essentially like a paywall where your average user is having to pay to get access to that, it kind of just changes things. And I don't know, I just think we can see an example, I guess, of like Boss, who up until very recently never did updates. And you see, like, basically there isn't really much of a community talking about the GT1000 or GX100 or much of the Boss modeling gear at all. I think specifically because they're not on this same like paradigm of actually just doing free updates until like literally last month. And I think that's a thing where like the hardware is going to be good for 5-10 years probably, but you need firmware updates to convince people that it's still good, if you know what I mean.
I never thought about it like that, actually, because obviously the longevity of a particular piece of hardware in the guitar world is, even like the Neural, who want to be the coolest, most new, kind of shiny new thing. Like QC is now 3 years old, and it's like, so maybe that is one way to convince people that it's still a thing, given the turnover rate of the generations within the guitar world is so slow. That's a good point. I've not really thought about that.
I think that is one other thing that, and also it means that money that would be put into R&D for like just developing new products over and over again can actually just be repackaged back into the same product. So you're kind of having less sort of digital waste in that way, which I think is a good thing as well. Like that people are still getting updates for a Kemper that is like however many years old, 14 years or something, 13.
Mm.
I think
But in
it's
some
quite.
ways, I'm kind of more. I'm still, again, maybe I'm just biased because of my partly what I do, but I'm sort of more sympathetic to wanting to then be able to like help fund that in some way because like I don't I mean I'm not saying I want to pay for fractal updates or line 6 updates, but I could kind of sort of get on board with it if it's like if I know the long-term health of if it's going to help the long-term health of the product and the company and in that it's not going to because I don't know what's the stuff doesn't just it doesn't just happen in miraculously in a vacuum. People have to sort of toil and work on this stuff too. Even if it is good for like awareness, it's I suppose you know it's got to still be shifting a lot of units to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, but no one is going to buy a
To make
Kemper
it
if they
worthwhile.
don't update it since 2011, are they?
Yeah, but
Because
yes and
people are
no.
still buying them
Again,
now.
but it's what I mean about this kind of the consumer mindset has been sort of like the entitlement has been just like set by Fractal Line 6. Um, I remember paying for model packs for my Pod XT Live like 20
Hmm.
years ago. Like, so it was a thing, like paid updates were a thing. Like, when was that? When did that was 2000, probably 2004, like five, like where you could buy like the metal pack and the
Hmm.
vintage pack to add on to as updates to your Pod XT. Like that was well prior to the Yamaha purchasing them. So I don't know, like it's I think the the eternally free update thing is obviously Fractal was still updating the XFX2 until relatively recently. like, um, but I just feel the difference with those guys is that were always and still are at the very top end. I mean, what's an XFX3 run at? No, it's like
Have
best
a look.
part, it's knocking up on 3 grand, £3,000.
Let's have a look. 2599.
Is that for the non-turbo
No,
championship Street Fighter
that's
edition?
that's for the XR3i. Oh, well, actually, use that. What's that? Mark 2 Turbo 2499 on the
Oh,
website
right.
at
Has
the
it come
moment.
down a bit then?
I
Interesting.
think it moves
I
around,
thought it
doesn't
was
it?
2.7. Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm. But
And
anyway, the point being that like it's at the very, very top end of like the premium. Like you can't buy a more expensive amp model than the XFX3, can you? So to me, that's always why it's been like the idea of like the entire life cycle is that you're paying up front for the life cycle of the updates. Whereas I've never really understood with Line 6, and I said this in my Line 6 and my HX Dom video a while ago, like I don't understand how they can keep doing this because the unit itself is so cheap and development and improvement that's not free. So it's like amazing how that is even all these years later, they're still doing that.
well, I
Because
think
it's got
that
to be funded somehow.
if you look, so the Kemper profiling amp now still costs 1,259 pounds. So if you imagine that since 2011, if they had done nothing with it, you'd imagine that there's just no way that they'd still be selling Kemper profilers anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like if you didn't have like this whole history of them updating the product and it's still being relevant and still being just, I don't think people would be buying that old tech. Do you get what I mean? It's just, I think it's a way to refresh and keep that thing relevant, basically. I think they only just added like the audio interface capability of it, which has been in there, possible, waiting for them to actually program it in. So they have
The
built a
Kemper you're
piece.
talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So they built like a future-proof piece of hardware, but you've got to keep keep that going. Otherwise, it's I don't know. I
Mm.
don't know. I just don't think people would keep it in mind at all. Like Headrush as well, don't really tend to do that many updates, and I, people don't really talk about it, do they?
You don't even really
Or
hear
maybe they
about them.
can't afford to. Maybe they can't afford to because the
Well,
Headrush are not expensive, and they're not underwritten by a big massive corporation, are they? Or are they? Who owns them?
I don't know, but one of the main things is that they actually are using 11 rack models, so they predate even the Kemper. If you remember the 11 rack.
Right.
So I
I've
don't
never
know.
used it, but I heard of it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it looks like all the fractal stuff's come down in price a little bit. That's yeah, a couple of £100. It's still obviously super expensive, but it's interesting because obviously the Line 6 stuff has gone up in the last little while, which
Yeah, that's come back down again, really, I think, a little bit.
mm, mm,
But I just interested, and I
yeah.
think you can see the test just by seeing what's happened with Boss, basically. If you don't do it, then you might get a little bit of buzz at launch, but after that, it's kind of guitar community in general is just not going to really be talking about your stuff anymore. And think people need to be talking about it for it to sell still. It's just my opinion on it. But I do absolutely see that it could also, I said this in a video, where like could a world where updates are paid for actually bring more frequent and more meaningful updates? Probably not. That's not the way that generally life works, is it? You just pay and things stay the same.
Well, yeah, there's the whole concept of enshittification as well, which is that would be the worry, I think, is that things just get enshittified as opposed to like actually improving with it. But Pat in the chat is kind of echoing something of what I was saying with the fractal thing, saying I think the update costs are already integrated into the original price based on an estimation of the number of units sold over its lifetime. So we already paid for all the updates. Again, I would agree with that from Fractal's case, but I just can't see how that is the math don't math for the Line 6 stuff to me. Like it's not like that is doesn't seem like that is well, I don't know. Maybe if you've got yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to say any more on that.
I think you might have been
But
off coughing before, Beebs, but Cordy was saying like the free update thing makes people talk about it, and people like Cordy sort of do videos on like what's new in the latest update, and is potentially
yeah.
like free marketing in a way. So there's kind of a bit of an offset there, perhaps. He said it, not me.
It's
I
100%
don't
free
disagree.
marketing.
I don't disagree on that, but I don't know if it's enough to warrant the time. Again, just knowing. Yeah, I don't know. Whether that is enough of if it's like batting a ball in the air or a balloon in the air, it just keeps. I don't know if that's necessarily.
Would you have
be enough?
do you think you would feel slightly differently if you weren't kind of in the app game now?
Oh, massively, yeah. There's definitely, and I'm totally open to my bias here, being that like, knowing the entitlement of people, like someone spends like £3 or £4 on an app or whatever, and I know Solar's a little bit more than that, but regardless, it's still like, you know, so cheap. But that purchase, the way that the App Store economy and the way that phone mobile economy has kind of just been like just brutally just worn down people's expectation that they should ever have to pay for anything means that like I bought an app like 10 years ago and demand my free updates still now. It's the entitlement nature of how the consumer mindset is kind of shaped by the economy. It's kind of being on the other end of it, seeing that is kind of like eye-opening. So I totally acknowledge that. Yeah, if I wasn't kind of privy and sort of experiencing that a lot, then maybe I'd be less sympathetic to. This is me, Beebs, big corpo shell like sympathizer here.
Yeah, I just think also like you think about what the average guitarist, like gigging guitarist, is going to be making money. If you add like, I don't know, how much are you thinking would be like a okay amount for an upgrade and that sort of stuff, or an update, or how would that work?
I've not thought into the specifics. I think you have to. I don't know. I know so many people that have. Well, yeah. I think I'm careful how I talk about this, but the economics of and the business plan of getting into doing something like just creating software, it's not always clear from the beginning, and I think that the specifics of how you would because I suppose the big difference here is that you have a physical piece of hardware that is being sold. You obviously got different costs involved. I don't understand. Wouldn't pretend to understand the hardware market at all. But yeah, no idea. Couldn't even put a guess on it.
For example, like the Kemper piece of hardware, like I don't imagine that any of those components are actually that expensive relative to other stuff. Like it's like a cheap monochrome screen, right? I don't know anything about making anything, obviously, but like how much is that in like component terms? Like it's probably nowhere near like the cost of making a phone, right? Except for the scale
no.
thing.
And in fact, even like with that's one of the things I find interesting about like with the quad cortex is like, it's a very like it's got the best. Was it the best, or is the Fender one the best in terms of the screen resolution and
I
quality?
think the Fender is quite a significant difference in the
Right.
way they've implemented it, at least, because it's got like full colors and stuff.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. But like prior to the Tone Master Pro, um, yeah, prior to the Tone Master Pro, the Quad Cortex had sort of like the best, air quotes kind of screen. But even that, the quality of the sort of touch input and the interface on it is so far below some of the worst tablets you'll ever use. And it's like, so even like the cheapest of the sort of Android tablets are going to have a way better screen and touch responsiveness than what they can afford to put into the Quad Cortex. And this is just kind of basic stuff. Like I mean, like you can't. It's just obvious of how I interact with it. I pull down on the screen and nothing happens. I do it again, still nothing happens. I do it one more time. Okay, maybe it's happened now. Like the just on the sheer cost of trying to keep savings down, you're not going to put in basically an iPad mini screen into that because you just couldn't afford to do it. So like you have to be being realistic about the components that are going into this stuff. And
I think it'd be
it's not
interesting
free, is
to
it?
know like what the actual costs relatively are of some of this guitar gear, because like we know for sure, like a guitar pedal, like a tube screamer or whatever, like there are not a lot of components in there that are expensive, right?
Oh man, that stuff must be like that's surely all that stuff has got to just be labor and like where it's built. Like the machine parts costs for like guitar pedals is going to be so cheap, really.
Especially if you're buying like 10,000 of them in one go. It's
Yeah.
just going to be like it's going to be pennies per sort
Yeah,
of component.
and like with JHS not even paying for the construction of them, I think I saw it, they'd sold like
That
33,000 of the Noticlon things.
that was genius. I mean, like
Yeah.
that's just charging you to build. Like you become the labor market. You become the labor workforce for JHS pedals. Is just and pay for the privilege. Is just, and it's just beautiful masterstroke. What a
We'll be
move.
stitching our own trainers together soon.
Yeah. Not a Nike.
Paying for the privilege. Not yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like yeah, the actual cost of those pieces of the hardware is possibly not as, it's like not as premium as in our head and in the marketing maybe that they are. Like you just said, like the screen on that Quad Cortex is not relative even to cheaper Android stuff from what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I'm going to clip this and put this in a video later. Beebs dishes the
Ah.
dirt on Doug.
I don't know anything, do I? I could be totally wrong, but like if I scroll up, okay, did it second time. Like, it's
That's a 50% hit rate. That's pretty good, right?
1 out of 2 songs will be okay.
yeah.
But yeah,
No,
that's
I'm very much enjoying the using that, and it's all working.
enjoy it while it lasts, buddy. Enjoy it while it lasts.
I think it's just you.
Yeah, and everyone we know, yeah.
Jake's is working.
For now, yeah.
Right. Shall we wind it down, lads?
It's got a bit too outrageous. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear from someone in like manufacturing and stuff, because surely that stuff is not. Yeah, I don't know.
I guess it's nobody, to be fair to anyone in the game, like they're not going to want to talk about it, are they? It's just all just for fun for us to kind of speculate. But I can totally see from a business standpoint that you don't want to be just like spaffing the beans on like all this. But often you certainly Cordy and I think myself and like a lot of people are like, on the sort of paying or the on the consumer side of it, like thinking it from perspective of, well, yeah, like we're trying to think about how much all this stuff costs, but I don't know. Guitar is such a niche kind of industry. It's I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit in this instance feeling a little bit sympathetic to just like the cries for like I bought this thing years and years ago and I demand free updates for life. I think
Yeah,
that's
exactly. Like if you're someone like you or me, like with an HX Stomp from 2018, whenever the next update comes, whatever, it's kind of crazy to think that, average
yeah.
Johnny Dickhead has not put any money back into Line Six's coffers, have they? It's like, well, this is a purchase I made 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
This is my point. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's my point in my video on it. Like, it's just how it could be like, yeah. And I find it super interesting that, like, I think there used to be, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, Cordy, but I think there used to be a much higher churn of new repackaged product with Line 6. It seems like when the Helix came out, they've not really done, there's been a few kind of like McDonald's kind of products, like the pod stuff. Like, they've done like, you know, but their flagship stuff has been very kind of like premium, sort of like positioned as premium, and they've stuck to it. They haven't just kind of like shat out iterations on it and repackaged the same thing. It feels like they've had the a couple of SKUs on the main Helix brand, but it's kind of they've kind of managed to with make it seem like a coherent, clear product line that is like has some substance. I think some level of prestige to it. Whereas prior to the Helix brand, Line 6 felt very Mickey Mouse kind of plasticky toy level of product. And they would iterate like, just like cheapo product after cheapo product of repackaging the same technology, it would seem. That sort of, well, that's what it felt like. So with the Helix,
they were the sort of the Nintendo Wii to everyone else's PS5, and like, you know what I mean? It's like
I remember going
for
into
the kids,
Yeah, I remember going into sound control in like 2004 or something, and seeing like about 200 of these pod whatever like things just like on a shelf like Happy Meals around the edge of Burger King or something like it was just kind of like really sort of yeah, just like mass market this, I don't know. Yeah, and the the sort of pivot towards the Helix stuff, where maybe that was getting up for 10 years now, wasn't it? In 2015.
yeah.
So they've not like there's not been a Helix 2, there's not been it's I honestly think I was saying this to you earlier, that I think that the HX Stomp might be like the most craziest products ever, in that they gave away so much for so little. Like, if you're looking at what it can, the possibilities of what that thing can do for the money as a subset of the main product line seems like kind of crazy now in hindsight, because obviously Neural are not doing that. They've kind of done a cheaper, smaller product, but it's very, very different. We're looking at like Kemper of sort of doing it, but like it's a lot more money. Fractal, I guess maybe Fractals is very good value, but it's still like twice the cost, over twice the cost of what the HX Stomp is. As a product, I think I paid 385 for my HX Stomp in 2018 when it launched, which I remember being, because I'm just sort of acknowledging that against the cost of compared to the what's it called, the Enigmatic that's just come out, thinking that that's such a aggressively low price for all of what the possibilities that the Stomp can do. I just don't know if there'll ever be another product like that.
Yeah,
That's so subset of the flagship for such a cheap price. It seems crazy now.
that might be partly because they've had to fight some of the previous like perception stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like, well, it came out with the Pod XT, Pod HD,
Ah,
and then you
what
got to
like
think,
what
well,
I was just kind of saying.
yeah, like maybe then well, that means that whatever we do now has got to be,
Mm,
yeah, I don't know, maybe you'd have that sort of internal chat, possibly.
mm.
I don't know. I
But
did,
I mean, it's been a massively like impressive product to change as well, because when it came out in 2018, I was not a fan of it at all. And it's like there's been all those updates we talked about have been objectively improved, not just a little bit, but some stuff with the stomp is like it's gotten like orders of magnitude better, like which is kind of it's bizarre. Like the level of improvement on the reverbs and the some of the stuff amps and things has been crazy good.
hmm,
Mm.
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, but I think that's, yeah, that particular has maybe skewed things in a way where it's like actually now probably that's not a reasonable expectation that anyone would do that again or be able to necessarily do that sort of thing again. It's like, well, like a new company without significant backing, how are you going to, say to your investors and stuff, well, we commit to lifetime updates for free.
Mm. Yeah, it feels a bit of a new frontier really at the moment, like potentially with the way what's gonna Tone Master, speaking of the Tone Master Pro, I think that's just had an update today, but no one seems to be talking about
What is the update?
a few new amps. Or I don't know. I didn't even watch the video
Is it
properly,
free?
Hmm.
but that's a good question.
No, it costs about 1,400 quid. Really?
Hold your freedom isn't free.
See, I can't find any. Oh, 5 hours ago, firmware update.
Hmm.
But you know what I mean? Like no one talks about some of these products until there's an update. So things are kind of quiet on like the Helix front because there's not
Who's
been an
who's
update for a while.
who's even got one? Has Steve still actually still got one?
Yeah, I think Steve's got one. He said he hadn't used it for a while. I think he's going to try and gig it. He said to me the other day.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just interesting. I think you've got to be, it's quite competitive and people are quite happy to kind of switch between the top modelers as well. Do you know what I mean? Like if you've got one modeler, you're probably quite likely to have another.
I'm just thinking Britain's next top modelers.
I used to have thumbnails about that.
Nice.
When I used to have like a
Basic,
set one.
basically, we're all a bit Leo DiCaprio, aren't we, and at heart.
All right, mate, settle.
That
Jesus.
what's the next new hotness model?
Yeah.
Right. Probably any other orders of business? Anything interesting to say? Anyone in the chat?
Yeah, I don't think much has happened. I've got not next week, the week after. I've got to basically, technically front a jazz gig. It's like some throw-in thing in Scotland,
Nice.
like a little trio thing. Actually debuting that Mario tune, but with clarinet instead of guitars. So there'll be other ones. There's I've got a waltz in the works maybe.
Well, maybe when Tom's finally off tour, you can come over and we can do it.
Yeah, man. Triforce swing. It's gonna happen.
Yeah. Oh, the genome is updating for free.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, I don't. Again, that is another thing where people kind of don't talk about the two notes genome too much either.
Mm.
Where you get like this sudden buzz, like when the thing launches, but unless people are making videos ongoing about the stuff, it's just kind of disappears into the ether.
Do you think all these modelers need a community around them for it to be to sort of like a necessary community? Because you've got like, Line 6 Helix groups and stuff on Facebook, and you've got all these forums, and there's all these like little group chats for people that are kind of, users of this.
I think it really helps.
Twat in a hat.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of something that rhymes with hunt. Anyway, yes, I think it really helps. But the other thing is that I think basically there's been such a big-ish group of people that have been making videos for Line 6 and like Fractal for free for so long anyway, that there's also like a bit of skepticism when people start doing videos for like Neural DSP or Tonex anyway, because it's like, well, you're obviously being paid by them, and they've kind of assumed that you were being paid by Line 6 all along as well, even though it wasn't the case because they don't really pay hardly anyone. So it makes it a little bit of a difficult thing for other companies to follow from that regard as well, because it's like, well, how do we organically build a community around this when there is already an audience for like Fractal stuff and Line 6 stuff? It's hard, I think.
I got a guitar question for you, John. Paramedic Pete asks,
Big Pete.
John, what turned you on to K-line guitars? They look and sound great, but I have to admit I hadn't heard of them until I started watching your channel.
Yeah,
How did you discover K-line?
I think that was 2018, and I was on the Fretboard forum, and at that time I was looking for a Fender custom shop, and I think at that time they're like 1,800, 1,900 quid, like used, and I thought that's a bit much. And this K-line popped up for like £850, and I thought that looks kind of interesting. Googled around a bit, and people said good things about them, and then offered the guy at 800 or something. Didn't get an answer, or he didn't say yes initially. But it basically just hung around on the forum for a bit, and I think because it's got a funny looking headstock, people don't look at it. So yeah, that was how I found it. And then yeah, I think like you have played plenty of K-lines by now. They're pretty good value for money. Was definitely the case for me. When it's 850 quid. So that's how I found out about a K-line. Now, of course, they're quite a lot more expensive than that used. Sorry. But yeah.
Lady says hello.
Jason, talking to K-lines. You thank him for that Suhr behind you, son.
Yeah. Can you see it, Chase?
That's that focus. But yeah, so that's how I found out about K-line.
Cool. All right. Well, it's probably kept you past bedtime. So thanks for joining us.
It's all right. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's we'll do another one with you when we can get the full team in order.
Yeah, I was promised there would be quail. There's been no quail.
You promised quail.
I promised no.
You just got a couple of eggs instead.
Yeah.
That's just wishful thinking. You just left with us, Dan and me. That's two schmucks.
I've not seen his face in ages either.
I haven't seen his face in ages. Busy boy. Yeah. Any more comments? Nope. I think that's all good. Yeah. Just good nights and thank yous. Yeah. K-lines sound great. Not cheap.
I have to say the Silver Sky sort of ruined them for me a little bit though, because I've got quite used to the radius, and now it's kind of
what?
Yeah.
Can't legato on that though. It's like it's not fun. I'd much rather have like a higher action and a flatter radius. The round radius is like kryptonite for legato.
I quite like it.
Kind of thing.
You
You mean?
Yeah.
You could do it, but yeah.
So, by the way, the Tone Master firmware update is being presented by Joshua Ray Gooch. That's Gooch. All right.
Gucci. I don't know. I can't say. Matt's wanting to make Cordy a regular. I don't know if
Would
Cordy's
be
got
cancelled
the time
within
or
the month.
Cordy's too big for us.
Yeah.
He's a YouTube
big time
superstar
now.
now.
Yeah, I'll bring you onto my channel.
I've had to beg him Like I've had to beg him to come on, and
It's been relentless, honestly.
it just
It's been death in the family and everything. He's still asking me.
he's just hobnobbing with all the big, you've got fucking. It's turned me down for like Spectra and Henning.
Yeah. He's playing backgammon with Beato and Davids on Wednesday.
Look, he's got a Sophie Burrell collab coming out next week. I'm just spilling the me. Right.
Yeah, I'm off to Paul David's studio.
You teaching guitar for him?
Well, no, I'm going to learn from.
Let's stop. Yeah, we will get Cordy on as often as possible. I know he's a favorite.
Well, this helps me to torch my career even more than I do on my own channel.
Yeah, but now you've got stakes. You're like, we don't know, you've got like. Anyway. Right.
Yes.
Always welcome, sir. Always welcome.
Cool. Sorry, my coughing has been. Hopefully, I'll be fixed by the next episode. Thanks, everyone. Thanks
Cheers for people joining live.
Yeah, if the audio boost, I did master. I just normalized it, cranked the volume for the Spotify, or for the main pod feed. So glad that's been well received. Hopefully this audio's gone okay. I'm using this thing that died last week, and my bloody Starfish internet's just not playing ball.
Stargate.
Shafted by Elon.
Yeah, shafted by Elon Musk again. Right. You're gonna.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time. I was going to say next week, but who knows? Next time.
Yeah, let's not jinx it. Let's not jinx it.
Cheers, Cordy.